The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on August 10th, 2022. And again, it's, boy, I tell you, every day of this Biden administration, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I wish we could stop talking about him, but he just keeps shoving his boot down on us. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. My name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So this episode sort of focused on government chips and dips. And I tell you, the first thing is this whole chips thing. I tell you, with Taiwan so pressing on everybody's mind and the idea of a potential invasion from China, or at the very least, a disruption of the chips that are produced in Taiwan from making it out to the rest of the world. It's got the United States lawmakers thinking about, well, why don't we make those things here? So they're putting aside a bunch of money to do that. And it's... Well, it's one of these government things. I mean, for a libertarian, how much should government be involved in funding things like this? I mean, obviously, most libertarians, I think, who are not anarcho-libertarians, are at the very least okay with government having an army to defend us. Does this sort of fall in that? I mean, if all the chips are coming from some place that might be captured by your enemy, should we be doing something about it? And if we do it, is that still gonna result in chips that are worth a damn? Government is behind them, or is it just gonna result in a lot of mismanagement of things? And one other point on that as well, Reason had something out as well that said, hey, even if you fund this CHIPS Act, you may not have the talent here to work on that because of our immigration restrictions on some of the people who are actually the knowledgeable people we might want here working on that. So anyways, what do you guys think about this whole CHIPS Act?
Well, Tim, why don't you go? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I outside of a couple of articles, I don't like it from just the whole idea of the government being involved in any of this kind of ridiculous stuff, this whole innovation thing. We're already so far behind in chip making technology. It's ludicrous to think throwing money at it's going to make it all of a sudden, chips are going to rain down from heaven like manna. And so it's, first of all, you have that issue. Then, just the whole, I mean, they're just I don't know where to begin. They're taking money to throw at innovating in high tech, cutting edge products. And if somewhere else in the world they're better at doing that than we are, then sorry, that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's not any different than many other things. And so, so what if the big bad boogeyman, China, they capture Taiwan, and then all of a sudden, what are they going to do? Hoard the chips? Okay. That what they're going to do? That what we're afraid of? Okay, then start over then. You're starting over now. I mean, at least you might get some refugees out of Taiwan to put into, if you would allow them to come into the country. You can. I know they're not from Mexico, so it's like they're not migrant farm workers. So maybe you would have an issue with that, but. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you've got to be able to let those people in, and from other countries too. If you're looking for talent, And so, but that's just freedom. That's just looking at freedom. But this whole throwing money away, that's not freedom. That's the opposite of freedom. That's taking money from other people. You're not supposed to. The federal government is not in the chip making business. It's not in the Constitution. They're not in the chip making business. So they don't have that power. And I don't put this under security. If that's just nonsense. Yeah, we need to have the best chips around to guide our guided missiles to their appointed target. But we're just gonna have to look for other ways. I'm sorry.
So I mean, I think most of us, all of us, liberty-minded, libertarians, whatever, will agree that we need an army to defend us, to defend our sovereignty. I think everybody would agree with that, right, Tim?
I'm worried about standing armies, and I'm siding with the original framers with that worry. A big, huge standing army is not a good thing. Navy's okay. Marine Corps is part of the Navy. This whole Air Force thing too, it's kind of land-based stuff, and so for the most part, so I'm a little bit worried about the Air Force too. So if you want to have an army, it doesn't have to be so big like ours is. I don't think.
Okay, well, wait. Let me ask a question then. So you agree though that some configuration, whatever it is, whatever the size, some configuration of a military, we need to defend us. You agree with that?
Right? Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, within limitations set forth by the Constitution.
If the chips, the nanotechnology,
yes,
that is not available to us, or whatever it is, or we don't have enough of it, or we're not making enough of it.
Yes.
If that is not available, is that not a national security threat?
Yeah, it is from that standpoint. But that's not saying that you can take money. Basically, they're going to print the money. We know that. Let's just stop.
Yeah, we know that.
Stuff.
We know that.
So that doesn't mean that you can indebt future Americans to pay for it, because that's not your power is to find the chips somewhere else. If you got to buy them and to make them here, unless the government, which is not empowered to do, is going to be in the chip making business. It's always the same thing. They take money out of the economy and then pay private enterprise to make stuff for them. It doesn't matter if it's asphalt for the freeway system, if it's a mailbox for the mailbox system. It's some private entity being paid with money from other. So the government's moving the money from another entity, from one American, and giving it to another. And that's essentially what this is. They're moving money from one American, giving it to another, and I don't think they have that power. They can buy the chips. They can buy the chips made here, made somewhere else. That's fine, and that's what they've been doing. But to be in the business of causing the chips to be manufactured, I guess you could say, well, what about the bullets and the bombs and the planes and the submarines? What about those? Those are all caused.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just gonna ask you about that then.
Yeah, okay. And you could I guess you could make a good point about that. I guess I made my own counterpoint.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, Tim, I agree with you about the government being part of this innovation of chips and all that kind of stuff, all the nanotechnology that's involved. I mean, the government is not innovative at doing nothing, okay? They're not even good at taking money from one group of citizens and giving it to another. They do a lousy job at even doing that. But if there is a national security threat with these issues about the chips, what should we do about it? Yes, on one hand, we have liberty and freedoms and all that kind of stuff, and what the government is entitled, or what does the Constitution allow the government to do. On one hand, we have those things. And on the other hand, we have the national security threat, which the federal government is certainly entitled to take care of. They
Okay,
are
well,
authorized. They are authorized. They are authorized to do that. So where do those two things come together? All right.
okay. Let's assume that that's correct. That they are authorized to, like you said, to use your words, to take care of that. So, what role are they playing when they come to that issue of taking care of it? Are they some government entity kind of coming up with these new ideas, or I mean, where are the new ideas for these chips coming?
Well, I think most likely what's happening is they're just subsidizing the industry. So they're essentially giving free money to incentivize them to build the stuff here. I think that's most likely what's
That's the
happening.
intent. No, that's
Yeah.
exactly the intent. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not free money. It's not free money. Okay, we working our ass off.
Yeah.
It's not free
But
money.
from their perspective, it's free money. They just have to fill out the right government form, and it just rains our money down on them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say, maybe though one way to think about this first before showering them with our money, maybe we ought to think about what could we be doing that makes it more attractive just for people to do business here? Because I was just looking at the per capita income, the purchasing power parity that's listed out there, and in Taiwan, it's not that much different than what it is here in the U.S. So why are these things being made in Taiwan and not here in the first place? And
Right.
I'm guessing it's probably because we have a lot of stupid government rules that if we could just get rid of some of those, these things might be being built here in the first place. So I don't know, just
maybe,
a thought. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the chip makers in the United States are the losers. They're the ones they're way back in the pack as far as new technological chip development. So we're giving more money to the losers. Okay, is that our great idea here? And so I'm worried about. Okay, so I'm going to side with Leon and say we've got to do something about this from a national security standpoint. I know the Marine Corps is looking into high technology and changing everything in the Marine Corps in their Force Design 2030 program, and so that is going, and I'm warming up to that program more and more, and that's all about what Leon's talking about here about moving forward with high technological solutions to these defensive problems as they come up in the future. And I want these, I want the Navy and the Marine Corps and all the other guys, the Army and the Air Force, and that I don't like so much, but I want them to be able to, to be in front here, not back in the pack. So. So I don't know. How's throwing money into the companies that are way behind going to bring them up? I don't know.
I mean the whole concept that we have, the whole concept of the Chip Act is a stupid idea, Tim. I totally agree with you on that. It's a very, very stupid idea. My only point is that I think the federal government is authorized to defend our sovereignty. Okay.
Okay, right. I'll go with that for sure.
All right. So if they authorize to defend our sovereignty and those not having chips, not having those chips or that nanotechnology, if that is not, if they don't have that available to them, then I don't know how they will fulfill that constitutional obligation. I mean, to continue. That is my only point.
Well, one thing
that's a good point. I agree with that. Okay, go ahead, Jason.
One thing I can say is it would help our defense. We realize we're over $30 trillion in debt, so if they would quit wasting our money on everything, I think that might help us a little to be on sounder footing for our own defense.
Okay, so I'm a bit of a Marine Corps fanboy, but not that I was ever involved, but directly, but. So in the Force Design 2030 verbiage of people, defending it and talking about it, and the people behind it, they're bringing up that we have to keep our spending within budgetary constraints. So, while the Army and the Air Force that I like to beat up on, they don't care about restraint, budgetary restraint. But the evil stepchild, the Marine Corps, because they get all the hand-me-downs, they're they get all the leftovers from everybody else, and they have to work within a budget. They're used to it, so they're looking forward and going, hey, we have budgetary constraints, and we have things to do, and this is how we're going to have to do it. That's basically what it boils down to. So at least there's one branch of the services that's got that uppermost in their mind, and are already doing changes in 2022 that are going to occur between now and 2030. So it should be all in place by then.
Well, even if we do have one fiscally responsible area of the
Just
military, I think the other areas might sink them. There we go, with all their spending. But anyways, let's. I think we've just about sunk this topic.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next topic, and this one is kind of an interesting topic, especially since we don't get a chance in all these crazy times with just the insanity of Democrats. We don't get to talk too much about things to be critical about Republicans for, and I'm not quite sure that we're all going to be on the same page on this one. But Ron DeSantis recently suspended an elected district attorney because he didn't like the way he was, or in this case, wasn't doing his job. So this sounds like a prosecutor that was in the cut from the same cloth as what's that guy's name in L.A.?
Paul Gascon or George Gascon.
Gascon, yeah.
Gascon,
so essentially, somebody who just wasn't, prosecuting enough people and putting them in jail, and it sounded like maybe they were having some crime issues there that he didn't feel like were being addressed, and they used some I guess aspect of Florida law that allowed the governor to suspend the DA if they didn't think they were fulfilling the duties of the office, I think so. But anyways, it does raise a question. I mean, if the voters wanted that person in there and they like that type of governance, should the governor really be coming in and removing that person? What do you guys think about this?
Well, as a philosophical idea, I do not like the actions of Ron DeSantis in this particular case. Okay, he's a very good governor. He does a great job. But in this particular case, I do not like his idea philosophically. However, okay, because I think elected officials are only responsible to the voters. Okay, if the voters put you there, whatever nonsense you choose to do, well, that's on the voters. And no authority should be able to remove you from office unless there's some sort of malfeasance that you could directly point to, and then you could be impeached. Okay, that to me should be the process. However, in this particular case, the Florida Constitution allows DeSantis to do this. So I don't think he's out of bounds in doing what he did. But philosophically, I can't agree with it, because I think this man should only be responsible to the voters. Now, he's one of these George Soros district attorneys that we have all over the country. We have one in LA, Philadelphia, St. Louis. We have them all over the country. Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, same thing. They are not enforcing the law. And when people are arrested, they are not charging them with appropriate crimes, and they're turning them loose. And they're turning them loose on the people that they are elected to protect. People like us, me and you. That is the people that they're turning them loose on. And this is a real problem. But if the voters choose these people, to run their show, to run their judicial systems that are in play, then we have to abide by it. Otherwise, we end up banana republic. So in this particular case, even though I like Ron DeSantis as a governor, I think I can't agree with it philosophically, but I know he has the backing of the Florida Constitution in his actions.
Well, if he has the backing of the Constitution, shouldn't he be able to do that, to step in? I mean, we were talking about how so many of these citizens, shooting in self-defense because of the increase in crime, and it's partly because they're letting criminals go. So maybe DeSantis is trying to prevent that. And I didn't know any, at first. I mean, I agree 100% with what Leon's saying, but if it's in the Constitution, then maybe he's just reluctantly doing this because it goes against his philosophical grain. But at the same time, he's responsible for the safety of the citizens of Florida, and he's within his rights. If he is, then maybe you and I both would do the same thing if we were in his position. Would we?
Well, quite frankly, I would. I mean, if I have the backing of the Constitution, even though philosophically I disagree with what he did, but if we have the backing of the Florida Constitution, hell, I would do it. I would do it. If I had the backing of the Constitution, all of these George Soros, the district attorneys we have sprinkled all over the country, I would get rid of all of them if I could, as long as I have some authority to do so.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, fair enough.
Well, keep in mind too that with DeSantis, this isn't the only thing he's done it's sort of a little on the authoritarian conservative side. He's done some things with education, like forcing that certain ideas be taught in school and other things. Now, granted, and I'm not like complaining. If I could swap him with our governor here in California, I'd do it in a heartbeat. so I much prefer what he's doing. But as a libertarian,
Gavin Newsom, I think you're a terrorist or an extremist for making such a statement, Jason. But go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say though that, I mean, there are some things as a libertarian that I think are a little bit concerning about DeSantis. Pushing certain preferences that are just happen to be in the conservative side on people. So, but I mean, he largely is responding to just insanity of the left. So, I mean, that's just
Jason, even in that article that you sent off in preparation for this show, I mean, the word authoritarian was used in describing DeSantis' actions. I can't see how we could even use that word if the man has something that he can point to that gives him the authority to do this. I mean, it's not that he just dream up something and say, "Oh, we're gonna get rid of the district attorney." He has the authority to do so, even though philosophically I disagree with it. So I can't see the use of the word authoritarian in this context.
Yeah. Well, it's a kind of a tough call because, if it was some guy who just like literally wasn't showing up to work and he was out vacationing like some of these congressmen that you occasionally hear about, right? Then, I mean, that seems like what the Constitution was designed for, there in Florida, to get rid of somebody who's just completely derelict in their duty. But if it's just a different philosophy and therefore they're not doing their job, but if that's kind of what the voters voted for, it does feel a little uneasy, like you're kind of maybe getting it's almost like, man, if voters really want this garbage, you almost feel like, man, well, maybe they deserve to get it good and hard. I guess sadly we're seeing a lot of that in California, where the majority are insane, and we just happen to be hopefully some lonely voices of reason here trying to break the spell. I mean, the stuff we're seeing in some of these cities, it's like Walgreens having to close and stuff because the DAs and the police just aren't enforcing anything. And some of these are laws that are in place that are just literally saying that, hey, they don't have to do anything if it's below $950. And that makes you wonder too, because I hear some Democrats talking about, well, from what we've seen these images where crime may be bad, but the numbers just aren't as bad as people are making it out to be. Well, if people know that there's not going to be any enforcement, is anything even being reported? I mean, when a guy rolls through a Walgreens and just fills up his bag and walks out, is that even reported as a crime?
Yeah. Who knows?
It's not a crime. Yeah. It's not a crime, apparently.
But in the voters in San Francisco, the voters rebelled against the Chester Bodine or whatever the hell his name was, and they recalled him. Now they're trying to recall Gascon in Los Angeles, which is great. I think the voters, if they elected a person, that is where they should that is where the action should come from in terms of removal from office, not from like a governor or anything like that. That's my view philosophically. But you know, the whole point about this thing about the Florida Constitution and the dereliction of duty, who decides what exactly is a dereliction of duty? It is true all over the country, all over whether in the federal government, prosecutors use their discretion in determining what crimes they will charge and what they don't charge, and they make deals in terms of plea bargains, in terms of what they're going to charge someone with, and those sort of things. I know all of those things happen. So who decides what is the dereliction of duty? If a DA, if a DA makes a deal with somebody, well, I'll charge you a lesser charge if you will cooperate with me to get some bigger fish. Is that a dereliction of duty? So who decides what dereliction of duty is? So that's where the complication begins. So when the governor takes action, like the governor did in Florida, when he takes action, even though he's authorized to do so, what is dereliction of duty? Who decides that? The guys might be thinking he's doing his job, right? He might be acting within prosecutorial discretion. But DeSantis, on the other hand, may see that as a dereliction of duty if you're not going to enforce the law as prescribed by a legislator. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think we've just about done that one to death too, and we're ready for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. So this one we're kind of going back into the past to hear what some of these people were saying before inflation started, and now to see if they're sticking by those words or how those words are playing out. And in this case, we have a 2019 speech from Elizabeth Warren where she was talking about what she would do if she were president. I guess this was when she thought there might be a chance that she'd run for president. And she actually said, let's see if I can find the spot here. Yeah, so essentially what she had said was that she wanted a Federal Reserve Board with members that believe in full employment, who recognize that inflation fears have been overblown for years, and who are willing to let wages grow. So, this is one of these problems with the dual mandate that the Federal Reserve has. We've talked about this before. It's like you've literally got one button and it's how you're going to manage the money supply, and yet you've got to these competing goals of full employment versus price stability, and they're not the same thing. So any mathematician should be able to just tell you that there's not enough there's not enough variables here to control the multiple outcomes that you're after. But anyways, it's clearly inflation, she didn't think that was an issue, and this was the same thing for many other Democrats as well. And boy, I tell you, I mean, will the media or anybody hold her to account? Will they hold any of the other Democrats to account who said, hey, look, inflation, not a big deal? People like Paul Krugman and his Krugmanomics. What do you guys think about this?
Well, the media, especially the mainstream media, is nothing but the mouthpiece for the left and for the Democratic Party. So they're not going to hold Elizabeth Warren or Paul Krugman or any one of these people accountable for their ridiculous statements of the past. They will never do so. Okay, or even the ridiculous statements of the present. They will never do so because they have chosen sides. They're going to push the Democratic Party and all their nonsensical, all their garbage, whether it's woke stuff or otherwise. They're gonna push it. They're gonna ram it down our throats as much as they can. So they will never hold anyone accountable. Forget that.
Well, I think she's right that inflation fears have been overblown for decades, because they have, up until recently, at least, and they've been. I don't know how. I mean, I've been fearing inflation for years, for decades, and nothing's happened until recently, until the last 2 years, and so she's got some basis there. And so what she's basically saying is that she wants, and I'm sorry, I was afraid this is going to happen. I have to take this call. So
Okay.
I've got to go.
Well, I'm going to push back just a little bit on one of these things that Tim was saying there too before I had to go. And thank goodness he's not there to respond. That's the best time to
Yeah.
come at somebody. But anyways, even though it's true that that we have been waiting for I guess inflation for quite a while with the amount of debt we've been racking up and the increases in the money supply. The other way to think about this as well too is that perhaps had we not been pushing this programmed inflation in, prices would be lower. So I mean, we would actually have cheaper prices on things, so our money would be worth more. We just have more purchasing power had the government not been involved in these things. And we see this with electronics, and in spite of all of the inflation that government purposely pushes in, electronics keep getting cheaper and cheaper. So it's a real testament that some of these industries can somehow get by. But it's just been crazy land in the last few years with Democrats literally both shutting down production with COVID at the same time shoveling money into the economy. So more money chasing fewer goods. You couldn't put a better recipe in for inflation.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think in general, Jason, I think I agree with that point. I mean, I feel that that inflation, of course, is like Friedman says, always a monetary phenomena. So I would in general agree with what you just said. I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's about the end of our show then today. So, boy, I tell you, it's crazy times, but do what you can to try and stay free, and hopefully we will see you at the next one.
Indeed.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.